Welcome to this deep dive where we try to make complex topics clear and hopefully engaging for you. Today, we're looking at a company that's been making some waves, especially if you follow innovative transport, Archer Aviation, ticker ACHR.
Electric vertical takeoff and landing. Big potential.
Exactly. They're aiming to, well, basically change how we get around cities. And there's been some pretty significant news lately.
Yeah, the UAE development, that's really caught people's attention.
That's the one. Archer securing design approval in the United Arab Emirates. So our mission today is to unpack that, what it really means.
And look at the other pieces too, right?
Yeah.
What investors should probably know about Archer right now.
Exactly. We want to give you the essential insights, cut through some of the noise.
To the core drivers.
So their main aircraft is the Midnight EVTOL, designed for urban air mobility, think electric air taxis.
And potentially defense uses too, which is another interesting angle.
Definitely. And, well, no huge surprise, on Wednesday, April 23rd, the stock got a nice bump after this UAE news dropped.
Yeah, regulatory wins like that, they often boost confidence, especially in these, emerging tech sectors.
And while the UAE approval was the headline, you have to think their other partnerships probably helped sentiment too. United, Ethiopian Airlines, Palantir.
Oh, absolutely. It all paints a bigger picture, doesn't it? It shows a broader strategy, different angles of attack for market entry.
Okay, so let's really dig into this UAE development then. What exactly did they get approval for?
So what's really interesting here is they got design approval from the GCAA, that's the UAE's aviation authority, like the FAA over here.
Okay.
And it's for a specific project, upgrading a helipad at the Abu Dhabi cruise terminal into the UAE's first hybrid heliport.
Hybrid heliport. So it can handle regular helicopters and Archer's EVTOLs.
Exactly that, like a modern airport gate that's flexible. It really signals the UAE is serious about this EVTOL future.
And why is just the design approval such a big deal?
Well, look, it's a crucial step towards actual commercial air taxi services in Abu Dhabi. The UAE is a key international target for Archer.
Right.
So getting this design approved means their aircraft concept fits within that specific regulatory framework. It clears a major hurdle for operations there.
So it moves it from just talk and plans to, like, actual physical possibility.
Precisely. It paves the way for the first operational EVTOL site in the UAE. We're moving into real-world infrastructure now.
And the location, Abu Dhabi Cruise Terminal near the Louvre, Saadiyat Island, the Corniche seems pretty deliberate.
Oh, absolutely. Very strategic. They're clearly targeting tourists, maybe business travelers too, offering a quick hop, skip the traffic to get to these key spots.
Imagine that, yeah.
Yeah.
Cruise ship to museum in minutes. What's the timeline look like for this heliport upgrade?
They're aiming to get it done in the second half of 2025.
Okay, that's quite soon, actually.
It suggests things are moving, there's real momentum.
Now, they're not doing this alone, are they? Who are the partners over there?
Right. Partnerships are key to Archer's whole approach. In the UAE, they're working with Falcon Aviation for the infrastructure build and, dealing with the GCAA.
Falcon Aviation. I feel like I've heard that name linked with Archer before.
You probably have. They're a big player in UAE aviation services. Been partnered with Archer since at least early 2024, initially looking at setting up vertiport networks in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, maybe intercity routes first.
So this hybrid heliport is kind of the next concrete step in that relationship, specifically within Abu Dhabi.
Exactly. Shows things are getting more specific, moving towards actual operational sites.
And the other partner you mentioned, ADA.
Abu Dhabi Aviation. They're the biggest commercial helicopter operator in the Middle East, and importantly, they're Archer's first customer for the Launch Edition program.
Launch Edition. Okay, we should definitely circle back to what that means. But ADA being the first customer sounds significant. An early adopter.
Very significant. And the local support seems broader, too. You've got ADIO, the investment office, Abu Dhabi Airports, Etihad's training arm, the GCAA itself, Air Navigation Services.
Wow, okay. So a lot of local buy-in.
Yeah, it underscores how strategic this is seen within Abu Dhabi. And a Dubai firm, Air Synapsis, did some specialized design work, too.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit then. This focus on partnerships seems like Archer's core strategy everywhere, not just the UAE.
You nailed it. They're not trying to reinvent every wheel. They're plugging into existing expertise and infrastructure where they can.
Like the New York City plan with United Airlines? That's a big one.
Huge potential there. Connecting Manhattan helipads, East 34th, downtown West 30th with the major airports, JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, maybe even regional ones.
The whole idea is just slashing travel times.
Yeah.
avoiding that nightmare drive to the airport.
That's the core value proposition, absolutely. Using their piloted 4-passenger Midnight to offer a much faster trip.
And United isn't just like waiting to buy tickets, are they?
Mm.
They're more deeply involved.
Oh, yeah. United's placed a big pre-order, invested directly in Archer. That shows real commitment.
Right.
And there's talk of integrating booking eventually, so you could book your United flight and your Archer connection all at once.
That would be seamless.
Yeah.
A game changer for door-to-door.
Totally. And United's helping with the ground infrastructure planning too, airspace management, safety protocols, the whole operational side.
Who else is helping build out the NYC infrastructure side?
It's a mix. Established players like Atlantic Aviation, Signature Aviation, newer vertiport companies like Skyports, working with Group ADP, Modern Aviation, Air Pegasus.
Okay.
Plus, they're working with the Port Authority, NYC's Economic Development Corporation, making sure it fits into the city's transport system safely.
Now, the target for NYC is 2026, but that all hinges on FAA-type certification for Midnight, doesn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
That FAA approval is the absolute key. Everything flows from that. The 2026 NYC goal assumes certification happens on schedule.
Okay. And Archer's looking beyond the U.S. and UAE too, right?
Yeah.
What about the Ethiopian Airlines deal?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Their entry into Africa. Announced in March 2025, an agreement with Ethiopian Airlines, Africa's largest airline, to deploy some initial Midnight aircraft there, also under that Launch Edition program.
So Ethiopia could be one of the very first places to see these flying commercially.
That's the plan. The deal, maybe up to $30 million initially, is about setting up an air taxi network in Ethiopia. And they're even exploring using them for ecotourism.
Ecotourism by EVTOL. That's a cool idea.
Right, shows the flexibility. Accessing remote spots with potentially less environmental impact. It's a big strategic move, expanding their global footprint.
Then there's the Palantir partnership, tech-focused.
Yeah, this is about data, AI, using Palantir's Foundry platform and their AI tools, also announced March 2025.
To make manufacturing better, more efficient.
That's definitely part of it, scaling production, quality control. But it's broader, too. They want to use it to develop software for things like air traffic management, fleet operations, optimizing routes.
So Palantir helps them build smarter planes and run a smarter airline, basically.
You could put it that way. It shows they're thinking about the whole system, integrating advanced tech end-to-end.
Okay, switching gears slightly, Archer Defense, that's with Anduril Industries. For military stuff.
Correct. Late 2024, they announced this exclusive tie-up with Anduril, who are big in AI and defense tech. The aim is a hybrid propulsion VTOL for military use, targeting U.S. Department of Defense programs.
Hybrid, so not all electric like Midnight.
Right. Probably a different mix of range, payload, endurance for military needs. This led to the Archer Defense Division being formed.
And there was a big funding round linked to that, wasn't there?
Yep, $430 million equity raise, December 2024. Partly to fuel this defense push. It's a whole other potential market for them, maybe less tied to the commercial FAA timelines.
And we can't forget Stellantis, the car giant. They've been involved for a while.
Since 2020 as a partner, investor since 2021. Crucially, they're set to be the exclusive contract manufacturer for Midnight.
That seems huge. Leveraging automotive mass production expertise.
Exactly. Saves Archer needing to build massive factories themselves right away. Stellantis actually upped their stake in Archer in March 2024, too. Shows continued confidence.
They seem to be pulling in expertise from all over, even NASA.
Yeah, a Space Act agreement signed January 2024, collaborating on battery tech, safety testing, NASA gets insight, Archer gets validation, the whole industry potentially benefits.
Okay, let's go back to that Launch Edition program you mentioned. What's the idea there?
So this was announced February 2025. It's basically a way for Archer to start deploying Midnight aircraft in specific early markets before they get that full FAA-type certification for widespread passenger flights.
So they can start flying, maybe earning some money, even before the final FAA sign-off.
Under very specific controlled conditions, yes. The idea is to get real-world operating experience, maybe generate some early revenue, build public confidence in the tech, and basically write the playbook for how to deploy these things at scale later.
And we know Abu Dhabi Aviation and Ethiopian Airlines are the first two customers signed up for this.
Exactly right. ADA first, announced Feb 2025, aiming for deployment later this year. Ethiopian Airlines followed in March 2025.
Makes sense. Now, the linchpin for everything in the U.S. is the FAA. How's that progressing?
They've hit some major milestones. The FAA issued the final airworthiness criteria back in May 2024. That's huge. It defines exactly what Archer needs to show to get Midnight certified.
What?
And Archer is one of only 2 EVTOL companies in the U.S. to reach that point. That's a significant lead.
That does sound good. What other FAA paperwork did they have?
They've collected a few key certificates.
Yep.
Part 135, the air carrier one, in June 2024. That lets them operate commercially once the aircraft is certified.
Right, the airline license, essentially.
Pretty much. And Part 145 for maintenance got that Feb 2024, so they can fix their own planes. And Part 141 for pilot training, Feb 2025. They're also applying for Part 142, which involves simulators.
So building the plane, the airline, the repair shop, and the flight school, all at once.
It's the whole ecosystem. Now, the big thing everyone's watching is the actual flight testing of the conforming Midnight aircraft.
Conforming meaning?
Busy.
Built exactly to the FAA specs.
Exactly. They've been building the first 3 of those.
Yeah.
These are the ones that will do the piloted flight tests for FAA credit.
And when do those piloted tests start?
Well, early 2024, they said later this year, meaning later in 2024. Timelines can slip in these programs, but those piloted tests are the critical next step for getting data to the FAA for type certification.
We saw the prototype fly, though, right? Without a pilot.
Yes. The prototype hovered unpiloted in October 2023, did its first transition flight vertical to horizontal in June 2024. Important proof of concept stuff.
Right.
But piloted flights on these conforming aircraft, that's the key milestone everyone's waiting for. And we heard that the first Midnight for testing is due in Abu Dhabi this summer 2025.
Okay, wrapping up. How's the market looking at Archer? Analyst views.
Generally positive as of late April 2025 anyway. Lots of buy or strong buy ratings floating around. And analysts seem to see quite a bit of upside potential in their price targets over the next year or so.
Any specific examples?
Sure. Cantor Fitzgerald has them as overweight, target $13.50. They see Archer and Joby as kind of leaders. Needham put out a buy with a $12 target after the UAE news, highlighting that infrastructure win and mentioning more institutions were buying the stock.
So the feeling is generally optimistic, even though it's still early days for the whole industry.
That sums it up well. Investing here, it definitely still carries risk. It's an emerging field. But yeah, these recent steps, particularly the UAE approval, they signal real progress for Archer.
Well, this has been really illuminating. That design approval in the UAE for the first hybrid heliport, it really does feel like a big moment.
It is. And when you stack it up with their partnership strategy, airlines, tech, manufacturing, and the progress they are making with regulators like the FAA, it shows a company really executing on a plan. Targeting key markets like the UAE makes a lot of sense.
The potential for EVTOLs is obviously massive. And Archer clearly wants to be a leader.
The ambition's definitely there. And these recent developments show they're taking concrete steps, not just talking.
Of course, anyone thinking about investing needs to remember the risks involved in any new tech area. But yeah, the signs are looking promising lately.
Agreed.
So if you found this deep dive helpful, please do subscribe for more analysis like this. Give us a thumbs up if you like it, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss what we explore next.
Definitely worth keeping an eye on this space.
It really is. We're watching urban transport potentially transform right before our eyes, and Archer Aviation is certainly one of the key companies trying to shape that future.